Okay, so the central and peripheral nervous system. Now remember, the central nervous system is composed of the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system consists of all the nerves that branch out from the brain and spinal cord. The nervous system is composed of two interdependent divisions, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord, and the primary function is to coordinate the activity of all parts of the body. The peripheral nervous system consists of nerves that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body and the external environment. The nerves of the peripheral nervous system are how the central nervous system receives sensory input and initiates a response. The peripheral nervous system consists of 12 cranial nerves, which cranial is part of the skull, 31 pairs of spinal nerves all the way down the spine, which branch out from the brain and spinal cord, and sensory receptors. These peripheral nerves serve two main functions. First, they provide a connection for the nervous system to activate different effector sites, such as muscles and motor function. Second, peripheral nerves relay information from the effector sites back to the brain via sensory receptors, sensory function, thus providing a constant update on the relation between the body and the environment. Two further subdivisions of the peripheral nervous system include the somatic and autonomic nervous systems. Okay, so here's an illustration that they have. Here is the central nervous system, or here's the nervous system in general, and it is divided into two divisions, like he was saying. The central nervous system and then the peripheral nervous system. And then the peripheral nervous system is then divided into two more sections, which are the motor nerves and the sensory nerves. And we're going to read that right now. The motor nerves. No, actually, we just read that right now. Okay. Two further subdivisions of the peripheral nervous system include the somatic and autonomic nervous system. So, the motor nerves are then, the motor nerves are the connecting links between the nervous system and the muscles. That is then divided into two other divisions, which is the somatic nervous system and then the autonomic nervous system. Okay. The somatic nervous system consists of nerves that serve the outer areas of the body and skeletal muscle, and are largely responsible for the voluntary control of movement. The autonomic nervous system supplies neural input to the involuntary systems of the body, in other words, the heart, digestive system, and endocrine glands. The autonomic nervous system is further divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. During exercise, both systems serve to increase levels. And then the autonomic is then divided into two further subdivisions, which are the sympathetic nervous system, and then, can you see that? And then the parasympathetic nervous system. During exercise, both systems serve to increase levels of activation in preparation for activity, sympathetic, or serve to decrease levels of activation during rest and recovery, parasympathetic. Sensory receptors are specialized structures located throughout the body that convert environmental stimuli, heat, light, sound, taste, and motion, into sensory information that the brain and spinal cord uses to produce a response. These receptors are subdivided into four categories: mechanoreceptors, nociceptors, chemoreceptors, and photoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors respond to mechanical forces, touch, and pressure. Nociceptors respond to pain receptors. Chemoreceptors respond to chemical interactions, smell and taste, and photoreceptors respond to light, which is your vision. This chapter only addresses mechanoreceptors inasmuch as these receptors are the most important ones for personal trainers to be familiar with because they primarily pertain to human movement. Now, mechanoreceptors. In this book, it only talks about mechanoreceptors because I got this from NASM. It is mechanoreceptors are basically what the trainers are responsible for training. and their clients, because it is responsible for mechanical forces such as touch and pressure. Mechanoreceptors respond to mechanoreceptors respond to outside forces such as touch, pressure, stretching, sound waves, and motion, and transmit impulses through sensory nerves, which in turn enable us to detect touch, sounds, and the motions of the body, and to monitor the position of our muscles, bones, and joints. Proprioception. Now remember, proprioception is what tell the body if it's in an unbalanced environment. Mechanoreceptors are located in muscles, tendons, ligaments, and joint capsules, and include muscle spindles, Golgi tendon organs, and joint receptors. Muscle spindles. Muscle spindles are sensory receptors within muscles that run parallel to the muscle fibers, and are sensitive to change in muscle length and rate of length change. So muscle spindles are responsible for sensing when your muscle fibers are being lengthened or when they're contracting. When a specific muscle is stretched, the muscle spindles within the muscle are also stretched, which in turn conveys information about its length to the central nervous system via sensory neurons, which in turn, once information from muscle spindles reaches the brain, it can then determine the position of various body parts. Muscle spindles also help in regulating the contraction of muscles via the stretch reflex mechanism. The stretch reflex is a normal response by the body to a stretch stimulus in the muscle. When a muscle spindle is stretched, an impulse is immediately sent to the spinal cord, and a response to contract the muscle is received within 1 to 2 milliseconds. The rapid neural response is designed as a protective mechanism to prevent overstretching and potential muscle damage. Human movement is accomplished through the functional integration of 3 systems within the human body: the nervous system, the skeletal system, and the muscular system. Golgi tendon organs are specialized sensory receptors located at the point where skeletal muscle fibers insert into the tendons of the skeletal muscle. So, this picture right here is of the muscle spindles that run parallel along the muscle fibers, and this picture right here is a picture of the Golgi tendon organ, which are the nerves inside of the tendon, which are responsible for sensing tension within your tendon. Golgi tendon organs are sensitive to change in muscular tension and the rate of tension change. Activation of the Golgi tendon organ will cause the muscle to relax, which prevents the muscle from excessive stretch or possibly injury. So an example of this is, say we stand up and we do a hamstring stretch and we touch the floor. At first, if you're not very flexible and your muscles aren't stretched to the point where it doesn't hurt, or let me explain that again. So when you go down and touch your toes, you feel that burn within your hamstrings. You could definitely feel it right here in the middle of behind the kneecap, that tendon right here. And what happens is you're stretching it out, and when you stretch it, your muscle spindles are telling the brain that, hey, your muscles are being stretched. And what happens is when it gets stretched to the point where it really, really hurts and you hold it, what the brain does is it tells the muscle spindles to relax, and it activates the Golgi tendon organ. And eventually this helps you stretch even farther. I hope that made sense. We'll keep reading. They're going to explain it in the book anyway. With that being said, let's continue. Joint receptors are located in and around the joint capsule, and they respond to pressure, acceleration, and deceleration of the joint. These receptors act to signal extreme joint positions and thus help to prevent injury. They can also act to initiate a reflexive inhibitory response to the surrounding muscles if there is too much stress placed on that joint. Joint receptor examples include Ruffini endings and Pacinian corpuscles. Now remember, the Ruffini endings and Pacinian corpuscles are the sensory receptors that are located within your skin and that are responsible for, sensing deep pressure, the light of a feather, all the way around your skin. Now, physical activity in the nervous system. In the early stages of training, the majority of performance improvements likely results from changes in the way the central nervous system controls and coordinates movement. This appears to be particularly so for resistance training. When we perform an activity, our senses provide constant feedback regarding limb position, force generation, and performance outcome. Was the movement successful? Basically what all that is asking. Unsuccessful or poor performance can be cross-referenced with other sensory input, and a new movement strategy can be tried. Regular training and practice cause adaptations in the central nervous system, allowing greater control of movement. Thus, movement becomes smoother and more accurate, and performance improves. Now I'm going to read the summary to you guys. It's basically a little paragraph of everything that we just went over. So the human movement is accomplished through the functional integration of three systems within the human body: the nervous, skeletal, and muscular systems. All three systems must work together or be linked, chained, to produce movement, kinetic, or human movement. The three systems responsible for human movement are also called the kinetic chain. The nervous system is composed of billions of neurons that transfer information throughout the body through two interdependent systems: the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, nerves that branch out from the brain and spinal cord. The nervous system gathers information about our external and internal environments, processes that information, and then responds to it. It has three major functions, which are sensory, recognizes changes; integrative, combines information and interprets it; and motor, produces a neuromuscular response. And that is it for the central nervous system, you guys, or the nervous system in general. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe, share the video, and next we're going to go over the skeletal system, and I'll see you guys in a minute. Guys and girls in a minute.